Welcome back to the Timeless Watch channel, guys. I just want to briefly speak about this thing that happened only 2 days ago with Horology House with Chris, the channel you probably all know quite well. I've received a lot of emails, a lot of questions about what I think about what's going on. And honestly, I can tell you guys, I only know as much as you guys know. I don't know Chris. I was a fan of his channel. I'm a subscriber to his channel, although now that seems to have completely disappeared. I guess I'll just speak about it here on this video. That way I don't have to reply to all the various different questions, which all seem to be of the same ilk. And that is, you know, what do you think? I think no matter what the truth is on this thing, no matter how guilty Chris is, if he is at all, although it seems he may be, I think there are two things that I know for sure. One, and I'm sad about them both. One is, I think we just lost a great channel. If his channel is gone for good, Chris's channel was definitely the best photography I've seen of watches. You know, all different channels have different fortes. You know, some guys have poor photography, but they have a lot of charisma, or they're very funny, or whatever. And some people have more information than others, or are more experts on the insides of a watch and so on. But Chris's forte, no doubt, was his macro photography of the watches. I actually, as it happens, just by sheer coincidence, I wrote to him must have been last week or 10 days ago. I didn't write to him directly. I wrote a comment under one of his videos just saying, look, your photography is unparalleled in the watch world. He replied actually saying that he had watched some of my episodes and enjoyed them, and I thanked him for that. It was the only exchange I ever had with him. I don't know the guy from Adam, but I do maintain that his channel was sometimes unbelievable. I would be gobsmacked just staring at the quality of his close-up camera work in particular. It was really quite splendid. Some channels have great macro shots, but his really, they get the Academy Award. You know, they were incredible. Perhaps his channel, you know, in other ways wasn't, you know, he's not exactly the most charismatic guy, or he wasn't cracking any jokes or anything like that. That's fine. He would just give honest reviews. He seemed very earnest and very, you know, straight up with his reviews, and his reviews seemed quite well informed. He had all his information put together very, very well. And of course, above all, the beautiful photography. So it's a channel that, you know, I enjoy, or enjoyed. I hope it comes back in some way or another, but maybe it won't. The second thing, and this is probably a bigger thing, that occurs to me about this situation is that this may have punctured a hole in the buying, the selling and trading market for watches that's online. You know, the watch world is already kind of full of paranoia as it is. You know, all you'll hear over and over again from the various channels and on the forums is buy the seller, don't buy the watch, etc., etc. Be careful, you know, where you're putting your money. You know, don't do anything silly, etc., etc. When I first got into this whole hobby, it was that actually got me obsessed with the details, because I bought a watch that was perfectly fine off of eBay, but it didn't have box and papers, and all I kept reading was like, beware, 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 and it drove me nuts. Actually, there was nothing wrong with the watch at all, and the person who sold it to me was perfectly fine, but the internet had instilled a certain level of paranoia in me at that point, and that got me obsessed with the details. And then, you know, it was all downhill from there, and now I'm here with a watch channel. So I suppose in a way I should be thankful for the paranoia levels that are out there, but it does sadden me to see them, because I did a lot of sales and buying and trading and selling, mainly in technology, for 20 years out of New York City. And sure, there were some bad people, but I have to say that if there's one thing I learned in business, is that most people are decent. They just are, and that's been my experience. We just hear about the bad story. There's no story in telling someone, oh, I bought a watch on eBay and it turned out fine. That's not a story. People shrug their shoulders at that. But if you say I bought a watch on eBay and it was a fake and the guy won't answer my phone calls, now we have a story and it's juicy and it'll spread. And I think that's what happens in the watch world. I think people push the paranoia a little too hard in many cases. It's good advice to tell someone to beware, but it makes me sad to see that a lot of people maybe don't do a deal at all or don't take the plunge because of all the caveats they've been told by the various YouTubers, by the various people on the various forums and so on. It's a shame to see that there isn't just old-fashioned trust going around. One bad guy, but for every one bad guy, in my experience, there's 99 or 999 that are good guys. That's my experience. Chris was not he's not some anonymous guy on a forum. He hasn't just appeared out of the shadows trying to make a quick buck and run away with somebody's money after sending them a replica Daytona. Chris is a public figure in the watch world. He's a face that we probably all recognize. He had a really good channel, and I suppose there's a certain amount of trust people give when they see a familiar face. It has occurred to me that now that I have a channel with some subscribers, that it might be easier for me to sell a watch if I wanted to sell one, that I could offer it to one of you guys and say, hey, does anybody want to buy this watch? You know it, you've seen it, on my videos, and if you wanted to buy it, make me an offer and I'll ship it to you. That you might feel a bit more like, oh yeah, I'll buy his watch. I know that guy, I've seen him all the time, and you might feel a bit more relaxed purchasing from someone you've seen on your computer screen over several months or whatever. It saddens me to think that perhaps Chris took advantage of that advantage, and the ramifications of that action throughout the watch world, if you guys know what I mean. It could make people even more wary and have a negative effect on the whole circle of the whole group. Make people even more suspicious, perhaps, of someone selling a watch. So those are the two things that occur to me about this situation. As far as whether I think Chris is 100% guilty or not, I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows for sure. It would certainly seem that something happened, something peculiar went on, and how much Chris has to do with that knowingly is still has a question mark above it. It's not lost on me, however, the fact that this is a guy who knows a lot about watches, who's made videos displaying the difference between replicas and real watches, and who is also somewhat of a master of macro photography. It seems to me that if anyone, perhaps on the planet, were to spot a replica Daytona easily, it would be the man himself. So it's very, very difficult for me to think that a replica could pass the guy so easily. It might be different with a brick and mortar store that are pushing out 8 or 10 watches a day. Maybe something could slip through somehow, but with a guy who's selling online, who is clearly a master, has a master eye for the details of these watches. He's proven that to us. It's one of the reasons we like his channel. It just seems extremely unlikely that he would not know that this watch was a replica. Furthermore, the disappearance of his channel, you know, all the same red flags to you guys are the same ones to me. We're all seeing the same thing. The channel disappeared, his forum disappeared, his Facebook disappeared. That doesn't look good, Chris, if you're watching this. Like, that makes us think that perhaps your accusers are 100% correct. When a person is innocent, they tend to, you know, stand their ground and keep their chin up and repudiate the accusations and so on. Closing down the channel and disappearing for all intent and purpose doesn't help doesn't help our image, what's happening in our minds about this kind of thing. Already people tend to believe any sort of bad, you can say anything bad about anyone and they'll deny it, but once you've said it about the person, no matter how invented it is, other people will hear it and will always have a little bit of doubt. It's just human nature. It doesn't help that your channel also disappeared and so on. I would say, from what I hear, the people who received phony watches, and it would seem there are more than one, there are several, which is why this whole thing is turning into a scandal of sorts. From what I hear, they've all been refunded. So I won't say no harm, no foul. Obviously, it was probably a terribly stressful situation for you guys if you're out there watching, but at least you have your money back and all is safe once again. To Chris, I would say whatever's going on, man, you gotta sort it out. There are rumors about a gambling issue and so on. That might make sense when I think about it, but of course I'm judging your character from a complete distance. I don't know you in any way. Whatever it is, it's sad to see, especially the channel. I mean, I know how long it takes to build up a channel. Look where I am at the beginning of my channel. I can only imagine how long it took you and how much work you put in to build your channel to the size that it was, I guess, at this point that it was. What a waste. You know, there are people out there who would dream of having a channel so well put together and with so many followers. It's just such a terrible shame to see all of that just evaporate in moments, you know, just short moments. Terrible. So there it is, guys. There are my thoughts on it. It's a sad situation all around. I hope everything gets cleared up with everyone. I would like to think the Horology House could reopen its channel, but it's going to be hard for Chris to stand in front of a camera, I suppose, with all of the potential vitriol that could come his way now since this happened. But perhaps his photography skills could be used. Perhaps somebody else has a great channel in every other way, but they lack the amazing photography skills. You know, there could be a collaboration. I don't know. I'm just trying to look at the positive here. Just because he did a bad thing doesn't mean he's necessarily a bad person. Some people do desperate things when they need money and so on. So I'll try to be fair and hope that the guy can pick himself back up on his feet and somehow make amends, even just to himself, and come to terms with it himself. There it is. I've said enough about it, I guess, guys. Thanks for watching, and hopefully the next episode will be about a funner topic. Actually, it will be. Look what I bought. There you go. That's how to gather the vitriol of the watch community. There it is right there. All right, guys. I'll be reviewing this, so watch out for that. See you in the next one.